Hi, I'm Annie Woodford, and I am reading to you from the high country of North Carolina, Deep Gap, North Carolina, if you want to get geographically specific. And I'm so thankful to the Badmouth Reading Series and Rebecca Aronson for giving me a chance to share my work and for creating this beautiful space for poetry. So I'd like to start out by sharing a poem from uh, one of my most important teachers, a really important teacher for many, many writers, named R.H.W. Dillard, who taught for many years at Hollins College, which then became Hollins University in Roanoke, Virginia. And this is his third book after Borges, which is a beautiful book from Louisiana State University Press. And R.H.W. Dillard passed away last week. And his model of lyricism and imagination and work and kindness is something that has really had a great effect on my life and made it possible for me to be a poet. So I wanted to start out my reading by reading this poem by R.H.W. Dillard. It's called Epilogue, after the Spanish of Jorge Luis Borges. You set out to shape a world. Years pass, stones, wind and grass, mountains, the echoes of bays, waves, the stirring of tides, kingdoms, republics, states of the mind, old walls and scrolls, ships and sailors, sheets and sails, fishes, finny and fast, and sharks, rooms, closets, the cellar stairs, instruments and tools, knives, stars, horses and horsemen, women, men. And then at the end, before you die, you examine the maze of careful lines to find there a face, wearing and worn, warm as worn stone, a face you know, your own. Thank you. So R.H.W. Dillard started a small poetry press called Groundhog Poetry Press, which has the cutest little logo for a press. And they published some amazing books, and I can't believe I'm in their company. But he published my first book, Bootleg. So I wanted to share a couple of poems from Bootleg to start off my reading today. So my mother fixed up an old wardrobe from my family for me. And one of the ways that she had it fixed up is she had its joints re-glued, because she taught me that old wardrobes were built with all wooden pegs so that they could be taken apart, sort of like a giant puzzle, and moved more easily. So this poem is about that. A wardrobe is like a woman. Both are fitted together with movable parts. A woman has hips that can shift to accommodate a baby, a man, bones rolling in their sockets, tendons bowing to the oldest song. Built to be deconstructed, wardrobes were meant to be packed in wagons and rolled through fields of blowing clover, jolted down streets muddy with cow dung. The dowels would grow loose in their holes as the years passed. The whole structure would sag in its assigned corner, leaning tipsily, shaking each time Grandma hung her dress. With luck, a carpenter would come along who knew how to tighten it anew, bracing the back panels with fresh boards and re-gluing all the wobbly joints. Solid, it could still come apart in a trice, its doors unhinged and wrapped in quilts, the base eased from the bottom, and all the spider eggs swept from its crown, to be put back together again and again. So it's springtime where I am in Virginia. I mean, in North Carolina, and where I'm from in Virginia. And one of the glories of spring in this area are the dogwoods. They're amazing and beautiful and usually white. They grow wild. People have them in their yards. And this poem is about a dogwood growing in a very urban setting in Roanoke City, Virginia, which is a city I love and where I used to live for many years. And it has my daughter in it. His name is Marion, and it's about a can crusher. Who knew? It's a great toy for kids. It's called Scrap Aluminum Gets 38 cents a pound. They have a can crusher, Marion begged, wanting to cross our busy street, go play with the neighbor kids, brother and sister, the intersection between us, dusty with the industry of this part of the city, the blown by trash of passerby who walk or drive all too often with blasted eyes. When I go over there, all three of them are grinning, slapping cans in, pulling the handle of the crusher mounted on a 2x4. Our worn out dogwood graces the yard. The children have climbed its bark off, but there it is at its bride white best. Scant branches, blossoms shot with sun. The mother slurs her speech, her teeth gone from poverty or something else, though she has the brow and bone of beauty. The children are so happy to crush those cans, spring coming on no matter what, the interstate 1 block away, breathing like a beast behind us. Right. Now I would like to read a couple of poems from my second book, which was published by Mercer University Press. Thank you, Mark Jolly, for giving this book a home and for helping make it a reality. It's called Where You Come From Is Gone. I would, one of the things that really was important to me when I still lived in Virginia, and it's still important now, but it was kind of happening in my backyard when I lived in Virginia, is the, fighting against the MVP pipeline, the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which they're still trying to force through that area. And I kind of feel like there's these amazing environmentalists and water protectors who have kept their eye on the ball, because every step of the way, the power structures in this country keep trying to find a way to force that through, even though it has already had really bad effects on the environment and will have devastating effects if it actually goes through, not in small part because of the nature of the geography and the type of rock and so forth that you have in that part of the country. So one of the places it will pass is through Bent Mountain, Virginia, and Roanoke County, and over a beautiful, ecologically fragile and diverse area called Bottom Creek. And so this poem is about that fight. It's called Demijohn, Bent Mountain. We dreamed the soft fronds of a species of tree we slowly realized is not native to these mountains. Dawn redwoods, part of the last landowner's court-ordered remediation for scraping the creek banks clean. Still young enough, their survival is uncertain. If they do live, just one will fill up this bend, a cathedral of needles falling autumn struck come cold weather. In the interlocking pattern of the woods, the last hemlocks glisten, the fine white web of the insect killing them only heightening their evergreen glaze. Somewhere deep in the Appalachians, perhaps not far from this gorge where a pipeline will cross Bottom Creek at least 80 times, some folks say a few chestnut trees remain, resistant to blight and hidden from all but the few who knew how to find them, time and trees stretching wide as turkey vulture wings. People used to pose on the fallen tombs of their trunks. A plank of wormy chestnut can cost over $1,000 these days. On a map for the proposed pipeline route, there is a blast zone, an evacuation zone, a geologic explanation for karst formation, which means everything seeps through these mountains. The water in Bottom Creek so cold your heart seems to stop every time you get wet. Salamanders persisting nymph quick in late spring, despite sediment slicking the rocks. While underwater, the orange flowers of crawdads bloom in the dark. Under the water, water flows, an aquifer wider than the Great Road. The folks who know to watch out for rattlers when they reach into rhododendrons or step from one cool stone to another. If you see mysterious shaking in the azalea bushes behind me, it's because my dog is back there doing doggy things. The other poem I would like to read from this book is about all the pretty trailers that we have in this part of the country, and how people really make them a home and put all kinds of beautiful architectural features in them. So it's called My Father's House Had Wheels. Somebody ought to chronicle all the pretty trailers people make in my part of the country, the ones covered in cedar shakes or paneled inside with pine. My daddy added a room onto ours, and then my cousin bought it and put in tongue and groove floors he'd reclaimed from a cabin falling in somewhere in the southeastern Virginia woods. Wood smoke rises out of their creek rock chimneys. Wood smoke rises out of my chest. God is a widow lifting up her gold-rimmed glasses to wipe at her tears. All right. And I'd like to end by reading some poems, some newer poems. And thank you so much for listening. One species of animal that's incredibly unique to North Carolina is the red wolf, which there's been a lot of kind of battles over trying to preserve this species and give it space to live. And so its title, endling, is a term for the last of a species. Endling. Soon the red wolf will be but a series of genetic codes stored in metal drawers. They are hunted in the Pocosin swamps, and the Weyerhaeuser stands drained and dried to tinder. A uniformity, no forest, but crop of pulp, monoculture of knaves presaging a vast human absence. Come spring, though, half coyote pups will be snout deep in warm fawn meat, wolf tall, rough coats burnished by a touch of rust, infantile bellies gorged with blood, ignoring sprayers programmed to crawl the loblollies, fine mist of fungicide rainbowing the carpet of needles, breathed in by the wind, the pups and their mother. In our book of holy days and the catalog of our errata, record this survival. Thank you so much for listening to my poetry, and thank you so much to Rebecca and Badmouth.